Hello, hope everyone's having a good Memorial Day and is ready for another episode in what I like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got a special treat. We got Ralf Bartels, who might just be the most underrated thrower I've done yet. He is a glider from Germany. As you can see, 2143 is his PR indoor and his overall PR because he never threw further than that outdoor. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, his outdoor PR was 2137, I think. I'll list all his accomplishments and stuff under in the video description. But this is from 2006, and let's watch it a few times. And the reason I think he's underrated, one, he's actually highly decorated. He has a bunch of medals. Always threw far when it counted. Was a real gamer. Really competed well. Which at the end of the day is really what makes an athlete special. Nowadays 2146 is like not that far. Or 43, sorry. It is far, but compared to today's standard, it is not. You don't really see very many gliders nowadays. The only ones you see right now is David Stroll coming back, who I was thinking about doing an underrated video for this, but I don't think David Stroll's that underrated. At least I hope not. Jesus, he's really good and highly decorated. And is, I think, the last 22-meter glider we've had. So, but yeah. Back to Ralf Bartels, which I'm probably saying wrong. But whatever. I'm not an English major, so. But yeah, this is his winning throw for the 2006 Indoor World Champs. He won. He also had the bronze medal in the 2009 World Champs. And I think he's won some other medals and major comps. But the thing is, he threw a PR both here and in 2009. He threw both his PRs, so I also wanted to do this because I also really like his glide technique. Even though he didn't really, anything over 21 meters is a far throw in anybody's books. It won't really do much nowadays. But yeah. So, all right, let's start breaking this down. Oh, first, what I want to start with is you can tell right away he's very in sync with his body, very rhythmic, has a lot of rhythm to his glide. And you can also see, well, maybe you can, it's a stupid runner. He has that upwards part, so when he goes back, so when he goes down with his upper body, he raises this ankle, his right ankle, and then dips, rises again, and then goes. Instead of starting from a static position, which you could start from a static position, but it's just easier to go and use momentum like this. Okay? Because, it's like in the rotational shot. It's easier to throw when you wind compared to a static throw. Unless you're Ryan Krauser. I guess. But, no, it's still easy. It's still easier. But you don't have to. I would recommend, beginners and stuff do it. Just because they might not have the muscles muscle strength or explosiveness to get away with a static start. But I mean, this kind of start is basically like the wind for a glide. It's the same principles. You just use momentum, so then you use, momentum to start your throw. And it helps you, so it's just easier on your body. Okay? Another thing, he stays really low. And really, really drives. I love this position right here. Stays perfectly back. Gets his left foot towards the left sector. Really drives with the heel, not a flat foot. He is a little floaty with this left leg. I would like it a little more down, because that leads to his left foot being a little late. Instead of in the glide, you want your feet to almost land at the same time, basically. Because the whole point of a glide is just basically a modified stand throw where you just have a whole bunch of momentum and power behind the stand throw. Okay, so I would like his left foot down like now, so then he could push even more. But another thing, he's a really big proponent of the wide stance glide instead of the short stance. So instead of having his right foot on like square with his shoulders, it's really wide. So then he can really, and I mean, it's just preference. Usually the taller you are, the more you want a wider base glide, just so you can get down faster. While you're a shorter glider, you want to be more in like a rotational kind of stance where you're kind of narrow. You're not this wide apart. But people will say like, oh, this bent right, this bent block is really bad. But in a glide, not really. Because what he does is he extends it. And the reason he keeps it bent is so that he doesn't get off his right leg too quickly. So he can push all his weight forward. And then he uses his left leg to get the height. So as he's driving forward with his right, his left extends, giving him the height. And you can't really see his reverse because of this runner. God, I wish there was a better angle for this throw. But you also notice he doesn't really rotate and go, because in the glide you really just push forward while extending your left, because there's not really much rotation. The whole point of the glide is to really get across the ring as fast as possible, get both feet planted as fast as possible, and get the shot out of your hand as fast as possible while staying in contact with it. So that's why glide isn't for everyone. You need a very specific type of athlete. Like, think of it like a jab thrower. Like, you need a specific body type, specific amount of explosiveness, and you have to be super strong, usually pretty tall, and super explosive to get away with throwing the glide far. I also think that doing glide stuff is very important for rotational throwers. And Ryan Kreiser's talked about this before. How, because the glide is, you're in like the most powerful positions usually. Because all it is just raw power. There's not that much technique into it. Honestly, the basis of a glide is just stay low in the upper body as you go through the ring. Kick forward or down with your left leg. Drive off the heel so you don't rise up. Get both feet down at the same time while still staying low. Just push off your right forward while rotating your hip into a block, and then either an arm reverse or reverse. It's really just quite that simple. Even more simple, drive out the back, stay low, land in your stand, and just do a stand throw. That's about, it doesn't get much simpler than this. Another thing you'll notice that he doesn't really rotate around. He just sticks it. This is a glide reverse. Because you shouldn't be rotating that much around, because you're not rotating at the finish. You're just pushing forward and sticking it. If he rotated around and stuff, that would mean that he didn't really get that much energy through the ring and through the finish, because he would have rotated away from it, like the finish, instead of all his weight traveling that way. Because think about it, the glide is a linear throw, so he has a linear reverse, which means that all his weight is going linear instead of rotationally. And another important thing, so when you do this, you would expect them to just fall forward and foul it. But what you do with a glide reverse is you look back. Which makes your momentum go forward. And then with your other leg, with your, I guess, left leg, or whichever leg it didn't reverse into. So your block leg, let's just say, you put it forward, or you bend this knee and go back. And that should save your throw. But it's also important that this is why I think with a glide, it's very important to land with two bent knees. So because this way you get the height. Because if he landed with a bent right, but then his left knee was fully extended, he would land really open and not get the height and only go forward and foul it. And it probably won't go very far. Well, it'll go 0 meters because he fouled it. So... But another thing I want to mention is the block. The left arm is usually pretty misunderstood in the glide. You'll notice this kind of finish is like how he's tilted this way in his arm. Sorry. So your left arm in the glide, or your off arm, if you're a left-hander, then your right hand. Let's just call it your block arm. Your block arm. Notice how his isn't out. Oh god. Okay. Whatever. His I'm trying to make a line, but it just keeps moving the screen. Sorry. Well, you'll notice that his left arm is looks like a jab block. In that it's not long. His arm's not long, and instead of his elbow here in rotation, it would be more square to his shoulder. His shoulders would be more square. But this is almost like a glide. I'm sorry, this is a glide, but this is almost like a jab release in a way, in that he has a really strong, a strong block, while his shoulders are kind of tilted this way. It honestly almost looks like he just threw a jab, especially with this pull. That's actually kind of funny. It kind of looks like he is finishing a jab. I actually just noticed that. That's actually kind of funny. But you'll notice this is almost basically a position a glider's in. And jab and glide share many characteristics. They're both linear, not very much rotation. You have to be super explosive, super strong while super mobile. You have to stay low. You have to have a bunch of rhythm. And you have to pull in a linear fashion without rotating. You'll be off your right leg and just all your weight's going forward, and then you have to fight to stay in as much as possible in a very short amount of time while all your weight's going forward. And so there's a lot of similarities you can take with glide and jav in terms of the technique. The athletes are just totally different, but I mean, as you can see, he's not built like a jav thrower. He'd have to lose like 100 pounds, but yeah. So, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even make a conclusion to that point. So, but the reason why his block arm is like this and why his shoulders are tilted is because he has a linear release where all the weight's going forward and he has no rotation. So as you can see from back here, instead of just rotating around from this, he's just gonna push forward and stick it, much like a jav thrower, except a jav thrower doesn't reverse. Okay, so to also get the height, he needs to throw at this kind of angle where his shoulders are tilted this way instead of like that, instead of square. Okay, because if he threw with his chest square instead of at an angle, he would just throw really flat and not get the height. Okay, so that's also very important. And let's see, what else? He also is already kind of, that's just a byproduct. Never mind. Forget. Yeah. So, yeah, this is Ralf Bartels. Hope you learned something. I don't do very much glide, but I think gliders nowadays are just super unappreciated. Still, like, the top 10 is just riddled. Top 10 throwers in history are just riddled with gliders. Most women do glide and still succeed. Like, the world indoor champs was just won by a glider. Michelle Carter won the Olympics in 2016 and holds the American record. The world record holder for women is a glider. Most of the women on the top 25 of all time are gliders. I mean, the glide is still a very big proponent for throwers. The men are mainly phasing it out, but I think there's still lessons to be learned from the glide. And it'd be a shame to see it go. I don't think it would ever go, mainly because women usually throw further with a glide. Based on biomechanical differences that I'm not going to get into because this isn't a science project. But yeah, hope you liked this. Hope it was informative. Again, I'll list all his accomplishments, his height and weight, if I can find it, in the video description. And yep, see you later.